You're like an onion, Alec. Just like one layer after another.
Awesome. I was hoping it was the layer thing. I didn't know where you're going with that. Welcome to the Macross Delta Recap Show, episode 21. This is EXO, along with the magical girl who happens to love UN Spacey prison food, Celia Rose. Hi, Celia. How you doing?
I'm doing good.
And the mecha expert who's just twiddling his thumbs over the lack of need for his expertise, Chad. How's it hanging, Chad?
It's going great.
Episode 21, Desperate Secret. The episode starts off and they're experimenting on Al Shahal and they're reading strong bifolds, which is fascinating. Belger, the two scientists behind them are saying there's delta waves confirmed, and Belger says that only happens during sleep. Delta waves are brain waves that happens when closest to death. And then we see Heinz fall and the people from Al Shahal fall. And let's get right into the next scene, which is concerning this also. The Delta team are having a meeting and they're talking about the events at Al Shahal. Arad is saying that 85% of the population over there is in a comatose state. Hayate is wondering what Walkure is going to do since they're all basically gone. Johnson says Lady M will decide that.
Yeah, these particular scenes together, I guess they're both talking about the events that are going on in Al Shahal, and it's really kind of ugly and sinister. They've got this captured population which is already infected with the VAR and mind controlled to a certain extent, and then here they are just experimenting on them. Yeah, it's pretty damn terrible. It's pretty damn awful. Very
Yeah.
despicable, and it kind of shows Royd he'll just stop at nothing. He really has like no filter. He'll do like whatever he wants whenever he wants, and he just doesn't care about what anybody thinks or any sort of hint of morality. He's very single-minded on his goal. We do get a little bit more of Belger, and it's he's eaten this all up, which I understand from his perspective and the Epsilon Foundation's perspective. This is probably like really good. I mean, this is research gold what they're doing here, and I think he gets to enjoy it as well because it's technically Royd that's conducting the experiment, and Belger and his organization is getting the fruits of his labor. So I think it's yeah, kind of disturbing on many levels.
What I thought was interesting is that they're talking about delta waves that they're detecting with these people. But when I was reading some stuff on Twitter, there's actually a translator that I follow whose handle is Curry67, and she made a post about the stages of sleep. And they had mentioned that, delta waves, occur when you're sleeping. And the article that she had linked to was talking about that, delta waves occur in stage 3 sleep. And during that time is where, dreaming is more common in that state. But you also get things like night terrors, sleepwalking, sleep talking, and you're completely cut off from other like stimuli and the sounds that are going on around you and that kind of thing. So I thought that was really interesting that they made that point, and I went back and read the article because she posted it on her Twitter a couple days ago. It's interesting that they're using the idea of mind control, like this is a mind control tool, but it's utilizing this stage of sleep where it's not quite the deepest point, but almost there to describe it. And I'm not sure how that's going to play out in the story so far, but I did think that was an interesting connection between the two.
All right, I'm gonna go through the Valkyrie history. I'll just go through the years pretty quick, and then we could talk about it in detail. 2063, we see Kaname joining the Delta group. They say that Kaname is from planet Divide. During this year, they pick her to train what's going to be the Walkyr group. We also meet Reina, who was caught trying to hack into the Chaos servers. 2064, they added 3 more members: Lily Grand, who's a Rognan, Claire Puddle, and Machina. We all know who Machina is. And then we just see like a bunch of training and action sequences, early involvements of the Walkyr group before they were even called the Walkyr. Were they singing already?
Kind of. So at this point, they're more of a tactical group than they are a pop group.
All right, let me go through the 2065 stuff pretty quick, and then we'll get into this stuff in detail.
Yeah.
So yeah, they finally get the name Wakure, and Kaname was saying that their songs fell on deaf ears. This is also the time that we first see my favorite guy, Arad.
Oh,
He
yeah.
shows up with his super shiny white teeth and says what's up to Kaname. And then we see Machina come up with the first Wakure costumes. At the end, we see Messer join.
Yeah, for a group that's only been around for like what, 3 years now, because this takes place in 2067, they've
Mhm.
had a lot of change. There's been a lot that's happened.
Yeah.
Like, Kaname joined Chaos after she quit being an idol because she wasn't successful. And she joined as their manager, and they pulled Reina from their IT department. Like, they hired her because she was breaking into their servers, and they're like, aha, I want you on our team, you know? And I just thought one thing that was very stereotypical that they would pull her from the IT department, but whatever. And then the other girls, they, pulled in people from auditions that also had fold receptors. And they were, for a while, for like the first year that they were together, were truly a military group. And you saw, members leave, like Lily left and Claire eventually left. But I liked this though. Like, I mean, it was a lot of exposition and didn't move the story forward necessarily. Like, we've had this is our third or fourth episode of just exposition.
Yeah.
But the way this was actually carried out in the episode was a lot better than the last couple episodes that we've had that were literally just let me tell you all about this thing for the next 20 minutes.
I suppose I can get on board with that. I wasn't a huge fan of all the Valkyrie backstory. I think I would have been okay with it if it happened at an earlier point in the Macross Delta series. That it's happening now when the series is almost over is a little bit weird to me. I don't really care. At this kind of, I mean, that's kind of horrible to say, but like at this point in the story, especially after we've had quite a few episodes where there hasn't been a lot going on and there's been like lots of exposition, lots of, setup, it's like, here's another episode now where we're going to go into backstory. We've just had several episodes of setup, and several episodes of exposition. And here we're going to go into an episode where, we're just going to get a bunch of backstory on these characters who we've already been following for 20 episodes. It seems like a weird creative choice to me. Very strange. And I understand, like, in the context of this single episode, why this information could be relevant. But I'm also wondering this, like, is really all of this information relevant? Not really. All we really need to know is Mikumo's relationship to Valkyrie at the beginning of it all, right? And that's it. That's the only real relevant part to the overall story arc of this episode. And so I feel like this is a lot of time spent learning different sort of things about the different characters in Valkyrie, some of which we already knew. Like Machina talks about her relationship, her early relationship with Reyna. We already had like a retrospective on the fact that they hated each other at the beginning and that they had to sort of, grow to like each other over time and whatnot. And while we might see a little bit more of the actual visual specifics of that, the story beats are the same. So we're not really learning anything new about the Reyna and Machina side of the backstory for Valkyrie in this episode that we didn't already know, right? So yeah, it's just it seems a little strange to me. I don't necessarily object to it. I'm just like really eager to get on with the rest of the Macross Delta story at this point, and it seems like every episode is dragging more and more. I'm kind of concerned, actually, to be honest. I hope we do get things moving along here.
Yeah, the only thing that scares me about all these expositions, I do find them fascinating. Like if you take each episode by itself, but it's the fact that it's happening, and every time we do the show, we say there's only 7 episodes left, and then last week was there's only 6 episodes left, and now there's only like 5 episodes left, and that's the thing that's really scary, right? Because how much confrontations and advancement to the story are we gonna do with these 5 episodes? Are they gonna squeeze everything in? Is there going to be way too much stuff that's left and they're just going to rush through it?
Yeah.
And that's the basic feeling, I think. Not just us. That's the comments all over the internet as far as the stuff that I
Yeah,
read.
and I think people are justified in being concerned. I mean, when we had the episode where Belger came on board and did his whole expositional speech and whatnot, I could understand from like a writing standpoint. It's like, okay, we've given a lot of stuff here to the audience, but we haven't given a lot of the backstory behind it or the reasons or the focus, context, whatever you want to call it. So let's sacrifice an episode. Let's do it so that, everybody's on board. They can follow it. Sure, it'll be a little slow. It'll be, not as interesting. We can't put any action in it, but at least it'll focus everybody who's watching the series to date. It'll answer a lot of the questions and make sure that everybody's on the same page for the finale, which means that once we get to the finale, we won't have to write it in a long, drawn out expositional way because we've already covered that thanks to this episode. But as these later episodes have kept coming across, these last two, it's just like, it's more and more and more of that. Not necessarily exposition, but a lot more of these slow plotting episodes that are not advancing the overall story of Macross Delta. They're not advancing the plot, they're not advancing the character stories, and it's just grinding the series to a halt. And I am wondering what the heck is going on.
Yeah, it's not the lack of action. It's no confrontation between the two main sides. The little bit of advancement that we're getting through each of the story elements, like the triangle, the mystery of Mikumo, and everything that's happening within Windemere. And also, like you said, it's not really a reveal as far as Mikumo, what we're going to find out, because we already had sort of like a multiple choice of what she is. So the fact that they pick one over the other, it's not really considered a big reveal.
I'd agree. Yeah, I think they telegraphed a little bit too much about what Mikumo was. Maybe not what she was specifically, but the fact that she was something different. That she was not a regular human like everybody else. Like they telegraphed that sort of reveal too far ahead, right? So that when we get to this episode now and we find out what she is, yeah, okay, we get the specifics now. Now we know for a fact this is what she is, but it's like it's not hitting as the revelation that it's supposed to hit, like similar to 2 episodes ago. I'm not really sure what's happening here, but it feels like a lot of treading water.
That seems to be something that they're not doing very well, anyways, is their reveals. Like Mikumo in the tube was supposed to be a big reveal, and
Yeah.
kind of wasn't because they had showed us Mikumo in the tube prior. Well, and the other one I was thinking of is like when Freya gives Hayate the Var. Like they took a couple episodes to demonstrate, oh, when she's singing, he's getting a little woozy, like he's out of control of this, and then
Uh-huh.
she makes him Var out. But then they kind of like pull back on their own reveal and they're like, well, no, it's not Var. It's enhanced perception, but it could be Var. And they kind of missed the beat on that one too, where
Yeah.
that could have been like a really cool reveal that would present a conflict between the two of them. Like, wow, her voice can give him the Var syndrome. And then when they, approach it with the experiment, and I like that Freya couldn't sing. Like she didn't want to hurt Hayate, which is why she couldn't sing, and she was afraid to sing. So I like that part. But when they're like, oh well, now we got to conduct experiments that won't amount to anything, it's kind of took away from that impact of what that was supposed to mean. So I feel like they've been missing beats on some of those reveals with these big expositional episodes.
Like you said, Claire Puddle drops out, and then another member shows up, which is going to be Mikumo.
This was kind of like the fun part of the backstory, I thought anyway, because I mean, we already knew that Mikumo's introduction to Valkyrie was imminent in all these flashbacks, so it's not necessarily a surprise. But I just liked the introduction. I thought it was great because it was so very much Mikumo, right? It's like she's this mysterious girl, and then instead of actually having some sort of talk or discussion or anything like that, she just sings, and everybody like is just stunned by it, which is great because the music was a song that we've heard before, but it's good, and the singing sort of has this impact on everybody. Yeah, it gives a little bit more, I guess, a little bit more depth to why everybody in Valkyrie sort of immediately followed Mikumo or just thought that she was great. She comes across as like this alpha female, who just like enters the group and just like does her thing, and everybody's like, oh wow. Kind of thing. But then you understand, like with the context, that's always been the case with Mikumo, right? She's always been mysterious and she's always been glamorous and she's always been, like she's basically an alpha female, and it's just everybody's this is who I want to be kind of thing.
She's such an alpha female that she could turn out the girl's lesbian. Did you see that? It's just like, oh.
Well, I think that was already going on there. So yeah.
Celia, is that true?
The power of music brought them together.
That's right. That's what it was.
Makina was trying to. Like, did you see that Reina refused to wear the costume that Makina made for her? Like, this isn't the hollow technology they're using now. Makina made them seed costumes,
Yeah.
and Reina refused to wear it because she didn't
Did
care.
you see the derpy face she made
Yes.
when Reina refused it? That was horrible.
Yeah, and the best part is like when they were fighting, it's because like Makina thought Reina didn't care, and Reina's like, well, I didn't care, I didn't care about doing this, but anyways, the Mikumo's appearance in the flashback was really neat. I liked it a lot. It was very Mikumo, first of all, like very
Mm,
much Mikumo's aesthetic, but I like the way they brought it back into the current time frame.
yeah.
The way Mikumo appears to them in the practice room is also the same way she appears to them in the prison.
Yeah.
Which, like, if you separated it from those two separate things, it'd be kind of weird. Like, wow, she's walking into the prison singing Giraffe Blues. Okay. But I liked that transition. That was a really nice transition from the flashback back into the current story.
The funny thing was when I first saw the raw version, I was like, "Oh, she got him out of prison." But then I was like, "How could she get them out of prison? Like just by singing? Like she just walks in and." But yeah, like with the subs, I understand. Like she's got hookups, right? She's got the straight direct line to Lady M, and she could just say, "Hey, you gotta get my girls out."
Yeah.
There it is. There's actually an interesting message in Maelstrom Games and Random Stuff. He's saying that maybe Mikumo is a clone of Lady M. And, like the original Mikumo is actually Mikumo herself. So there's a chance. Remember how we were arguing that Mikumo can't be Lady M?
Yeah.
So now he's bringing back the idea that maybe she could be.
Oh, I don't know. That kind of I don't know. The thought of two Mikumos actually kind of gives me a headache the more I think about it. But at this point, like, they haven't given us any other hints on Lady M. So it's entirely possible that Lady M is literally just Mikumo. And the Mikumo we're seeing is a clone of Lady M.
Number one, I think that theory is kind of cool. I'm sort of on board with it. I would be happy if that's how it turns out. Let's just say that. Number two, I just realized why so many of the female characters in the Macross Delta series, their names start with an M. It was just, I didn't realize it before. I don't know why. Maybe just not paying attention, but it's just like, I think it was there specifically to throw off everybody so they could use the phrase Lady M. And it's like, oh, does it refer to Mikumo, Machina, Mirage, Milia? It's just like there's all these possibilities,
Yeah.
Minmay, your mind just goes, right? So there's just so many characters that could be Lady M,
Yeah.
so yeah.
Mirage's mom is Miranda.
But I like the theory, very much so. I'm a fan.
I like the theory, but Celia talked me out of it. Now it's giving me a headache.
I just
I'm just
want to
kidding.
know who Lady M is.
Well, hopefully we'll find out soon, man. Yeah, that's a frustrating part of this.
Will we? Will we? Actually, I don't think so.
Maybe in the next series we'll find out.
The next.
I think we'll find out. I just don't think we'll find out soon.
Macross
Because we've
M.
been saying we're going to find out soon for the last 3 episodes, and it's just not happening.
Macross M. Oh my god. I think I do agree with Chad though, if that's the way the theory turned out to be for Lady M, that would be pretty badass. Like that'd be a really cool way to reveal that in the show.
I jump on your side and then you jump on Chad's side. What's up with that?
Be this a lesson to you, Alex. Don't flip
know.
flop.
Can't help it.
It's too much fun.
Oh man. We didn't get to talk about your boy Aaron, Alex.
Did you want to go back to how Arad just walked in with his bright white teeth and he just like sashayed towards Kaname?
How he shows up with his
Sachet.
with his white smile and his perfect hair, and he's supposed to be like, "Hey, look at me! I'm the young, handsome pilot." Are you?
I have no gray in my
Oh
hair. Look how
god.
perfect I am.
Yeah.
Even the way he came in with his the F-31A, he was just like, "Get out of here, everybody! She's mine."
He's like, "Are you okay?" Then he tracks her down later, to talk about
Yeah.
Valkyrie training together. But he's still making the same stupid jellyfish analogies.
Yeah, he was. It's back then.
I'm like, dude, like clearly this is like, okay, I know it's only been like 3 years, or even just 2 years from the time that that we're in right now in 2067. But you'd think he'd run out of jellyfish analogies and metaphors by this point.
You don't know. You just don't know the locals. That's it. Arad's smart, man. Arad's smart. He knows the locals. He knows what the ladies of Ragna want.
Have you ever talked to like a vegetarian or a wine expert? I mean, that's all they could talk about that for the rest of their lives, and it's like, don't you like me more because I know so much?
It's like this vegans and Scott Pilgrim versus the world. Vegans are just better than normal people.
And they'll tell you why. For the
And they
rest
will
of the time.
tell you why. Oh God. To anybody who will listen.
We just lost all our vegan listeners.
What What if that's why we don't have as much screen time for Arad? Because every time he would be on for longer than like 2 or 3 minutes, he'd just talk about jellyfish.
How interesting is it that Kaname is from planet Divide and she's probably not an Earthling? That was kind of like an interesting little tidbit.
I don't know if I find it that interesting at this point in Macross history, because I mean, like, sure, in early Macross sequels and whatnot, it was just assumed that 90% of the humans were from Earth. But now, after like several generations of colonization and different planets, I mean,
Where's Claire Puddle from? Is she from the moon of Sailor?
Oh
Because that's
God.
what she looks
she
like.
looks like Sailor Moon. Yeah, I thought
Yeah,
that
she
as
does.
well. Yeah, as soon as I saw the character design, I thought this has got to be a blatant reference to Sailor Moon.
So that leads us to the Windemere side of the story. Keith just barges into Heinz's room and finds he's covered with the icy scars all over his body. He finds out because he tracked down the doctor that they got rid of 2 episodes ago. He confronts Royd, and Royd actually confesses to killing King Gramia. Celia,
I know. Holy
congratulations on
shit.
that call. But then he asks Royd, what about the last will? Is that something that you made up too? And Royd's like, no, I could feel King Gramia's last hopes for Windermere through his runes. But Keith's like, I can't feel your rune right now. Like, it seems like we don't even fly the same skies. And then he gives Royd one final threat. Like, it's just weird because Royd committed regicide, and it's like, yeah, it's okay. Next time I'll get you.
I don't understand this either. This is like, yeah,
Yeah.
this feels like a real plot-driven sort of scene that does not
Okay.
make any character sense whatsoever. I mean, at this point, Keith has enough. He wouldn't even have to confront Royd. He could just get Royd removed, arrested, even killed and executed for treason at this point. He probably has enough evidence. And if not, then he's got enough to convince other people to listen to him. And I think if he told the Aerial Knights, I think most of them would be on his side as well. So I'm not really sure what's going on here. It almost feels like Royd's not even really getting any punishment. And I also, one of the other things that I didn't like about this sequence is like, what is Royd doing? Like, why does he feel the need that he has to confess? Because at this point, yes, Keith has evidence in that, like what's happened to Lord Hines, and he can, really do some damage to Royd, maybe even get him arrested and executed for it. But he doesn't have any proof on anything else. Like he doesn't know, he doesn't have any proof about Gramia. He doesn't have any proof about Royd's intentions really are. Royd just as easily deny, and Keith doesn't have anything. All he's got is Hines. That's it. So that's the only part of the story that he can corroborate and screw Royd over on just on that one part. But the rest of it, I don't see motivation for Royd to confess.
Well, he's got the doctor. And also, you have to remember that even though Royd is somehow blocking Keith, you could also tell because their runes can sense each other. So I don't know how strong it is that he could block Keith from feeling his rune, but there might be a chance that something like that could slip.
I see. Okay. Maybe that explains it then. Yeah.
There were things I liked about it and things I didn't. Like the reveal with Hines and the icy crusties all over his body. That was great. Especially because we knew something had to be affecting him at some point. So that was really cool. But like Keith was much more concerned with the fact that Hines was covered in icy crusties than the fact that Royd stabbed the king. So I'm like, okay, sure.
Yeah, that's exactly what I'm tripping on.
But like I don't know what they were trying to accomplish. And I agree with Chad. I think it was more just like, let's get this out there so we can try to move the story instead of actually make sense of it.
It makes plot sense, but it does not make character sense.
Yeah. And it was so strange that they're like, well, I stabbed the king, but, this really was his last true will. And I'm like, are you really going to trust him after he just told you he stabbed your father?
Yeah.
And
You
what is
know?
Keith waiting for at this point? Like what possible motivation does Keith have to not have Royd taken out? Like I
Yeah,
don't get
because
it.
he's definitely hurting Hines.
Yeah, he's hurt Hines, he's killed King Gramia, he's lied about everything else, and he's got proof of it, both in Hines and I guess the doctor, which I didn't consider before. But yeah, it's just like at this point, Keith is now holding all the cards. The power play has shifted again, but for some reason, it doesn't feel like it has.
They moved the story 2 steps forward and then they took it back one, right?
Yeah.
It's almost like, oh my god, that's great. Like now you got him, and this is the confrontation that we were all waiting for. And then it was like a letdown at the end.
Yeah.
It just didn't make sense when he left.
Yeah. I think what they're trying to do, and this is kind of how I've been viewing it, is they're trying to portray this as like these are childhood friends and there's a wedge between them. And the wedge is driving them even further and trying to go for the dramatics of that. But they're not, like, I don't think it's working very well, like as a whole.
Yeah.
Like, I did like the impact of, like, when he says, do you not fly the same skies as me? Like that line actually stood out to me because of the fact, because like I'm reading the Aerial Knights manga, and they show us the flashback when they were kids. They were together for a long time, so for at least 10 years, assuming that Royd and Keith are 22, and they met each other in the academy when Keith was 12. So that's a long time, and they have a long friendship, and now they've been partying for a while, but now it's really coming to where maybe it's like they can't reconcile their differences anymore, and it's irreparable damage to their friendship. So that's what I liked about that line. But just the rest of the scene and the way that they're executing it, I don't think is working in the same way that one line did in that moment. I can see what they're trying to go for, but I don't know if I like it overall. I like bits and pieces of how they've executed it, but maybe not the whole way it's being utilized within the story.
I think part of this, the problem with this particular relationship between the two of them also is the fact that I don't feel any of that from Keith's side. I never have the entire Delta series. I mean, like if they're supposed to be close and, they're supposed to have some sort of relationship, it never felt like it from Keith's side. And from Royd's side, it always felt like Royd was like, he remembers the relationship, but only in as much as he can use it to his advantage.
That's because Messer showed up, and then Roy got all super jelly, and then Keith's like, "I'm over you. It's a new guy in town."
I found a new boy.
That's right. That's the piece that's missing, right? Messer.
It's like when you've got 4 or 5 year olds and they're like, this is my new best friend. You're not my best friend anymore.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, it just
But I
it's
see what you mean.
Keith.
I see
It's
what you mean,
Keith.
though,
It's
Chad.
like yeah, the Keith side is the side that bothers me because this scene plays out as if Keith has a lot of loyalty and love for Royd, and that's just never been portrayed so far in this series. And I'm like,
Yeah.
why are they using that relationship now as some sort of big counterpoint, this dramatic reveal, when that's never been displayed, that's never been portrayed in the series to date?
Well, and if you think about it, it's the same with Hines also. Everything with Hines has been very one-sided, with Hines reaching out to Keith, but Keith not responding. Even if
Yes.
he like just took Hines aside, like away from everyone else, and was like, I want to be your brother, but I can't do this for you right now. This is what I can do for you. I think that would have added a lot and would have meant so much to the development of their relationship, and the impact that would have had on this reveal where he finds out that Royd is pushing Hines and he's getting more of the icy crusties, and it's going to kill him. That would add so much more to it. But because they've made Keith so closed off and so cold to literally everybody, it's hard to see those things without reading the supplementary material, and you
Yes.
shouldn't have to read the supplementary material to get that. Like, I
Yeah.
get it because I am reading it.
Yeah.
But what about the people who choose not to?
That's right. And that's exactly it. Like, and that's when you're judging a show based on, its own merits, right? It has to be
Yeah.
text in the show itself. If it's not, then that's a weakness of the writing of the show. You can't be relying on material outside of the context of the show in order to explain the show itself.
I'll tell you what the biggest problem is right here. This is exactly what Chad's point is about, why they let Royd go because of the plot. And it's because of what happens in the next scene with him. They had to let him go because he has to go through this whole thing where, he's at that altar and he gets a call from Belger. And then all of a sudden he's under Belger's mind control. So you can't really do that when Keith puts Royd away, right? One thing that's interesting that he said is, I have to hurry because Keith is closing in. Now, he gets a call from Belger, and it's like, I gotta finish what I'm doing because there's a fucking rope around my neck.
So, was he under Belger's mind control?
That's what I got from it. Did you get something else?
So, what I got is that Belger was telling Royd that the people, because all of the inhabitants of Al Shahal are comatose, but basically, like, put into almost like a sleep like state with those
Yeah.
delta waves, and those delta waves can connect them all through a network.
Yeah. Like a network.
Yeah, but I didn't get the impression that Royd was under mind control because he told Belger, research what you're actually being paid to research.
Yeah, he was
Yeah,
mean.
he was pretty sharp with him. But I don't know what happened in that shrine where like the sparkle comes out, like the shrine starts glowing and this sparkle comes out and like pings Royd in the forehead. And he says the Windemerian royal family saying, the motto, Rud Anjal Mayan, and then these structures appear and you get this image that looks just like Mikumo in her flashbacks, and she's called the
Hmm.
Star Singer. So I'm
Yeah.
like, whoa, like okay, so that raised a lot more questions. And there's only 5 episodes to go. I was really engaged with it and it was cool to watch. I just wasn't entirely sure what was going on for most of that little scene.
Yeah, I agree. I think that Star Singer image and the flashbacks and what are just too much of a coincidence to ignore. And I think that getting to this part of this series is, I think there's the possibilities of what it could be are very limited as well. So I think it's pretty much a conclusion that she's the Star Singer. Yeah, I also like don't know if I understand exactly what's going on with Royd and those lights. I don't think that's Belger. I know he was communicating with Belger prior to his little experiment inside the Shrine of Time. I don't think necessarily that that's Belger. I think it might be the either the shrine itself because it was like doing all that weird stuff, right? Yeah, so I'm not really sure what's happening, but I'm not convinced it's Belger either.
Could the shrine be reacting because of all the modifications that were put on it? I mean, this is still a protoculture artifact, and as far as we know, so the Epsilon Foundation already put on mods a couple of times earlier in the series, and they were adding more stuff to it at the very beginning before Heinz collapsed. So could it be that's what's going on? Is the shrine is responding to the fact that it's been altered?
Well, that's the thing. It's like that's my take. It's Belger's equipment inside the shrine itself, and then the way they just left it off. He's like, "Get back to your work. Don't waste my time." And Belger was kind of like, "No, that's exactly what I intend." It was kind of like a creepy little line, and
Oh,
then that
yeah.
thing happens. So from my take, and I didn't even think about what other people got out of it, but yeah, from my take, it was something that maybe the mind control equipment is ready, and something about the experiment in Al Shahal gave him a little bit more information to where he could actually take control of Royd.
Hmm, maybe. It's a really it's kind of ambiguous, like what's actually happening.
We were talking about last week how are they going to make Belger the main bad guy, and this is kind of like a shortcut to doing that, right? If he was to take control of Royd, so I don't know. I guess we're gonna find out next episode, or will we? I don't know.
No, I hope we find out
Like,
next episode.
That was my point about 10 minutes ago. It's like we keep saying that we're going to find out soon, and then, yeah, another episode goes by, and it's just, yeah.
so they're talking about the Shrine of Time, right? When they're talking about the main target in Windemere for Delta.
I believe so, yeah.
Yeah, it only makes sense. So they're gonna go into the heart of Windermere, and then they have to go through Alfheim first. Johnson was saying back to where Arad met Messer.
Oh, yeah, to get through the dimensional barrier.
Yeah, the geeks will figure it out.
Yep. So Reina will figure it out.
Serena, that's the main geek, the one geek they have.
Well, she was their IT guy for a while, so.
Yeah. But before that scene is Mikumo standing with the rest of the Walkere that was in jail, and Mikumo was revealing to them what she was.
Yeah, okay, so I think I understand what she was saying. I actually had to have one of my followers on Twitter clarify it for me.
Uh
Uh,
huh.
because, like, I watched it raw and still wasn't sure. And then I watched the subs and I'm still not 100% sure, but I think I have a better idea this time. She remembers her birthday now, which, she didn't remember during Freya's birthday. And she's like, no one ever celebrated my birthdays. Um, but she remembers, being born in 2064, and she was introduced to the group in 2065. And she was talking about how she remembers the fold receptors being built into her body. And then she made the comment about, whether I'm a normal human or a clone, it doesn't matter because I'll continue singing. And so between that and what Andre Nome told me on Twitter, he's the follower that helped me kind of clarify it, is that it
Hmm.
sounds like she's possibly a clone of the original Wind Singer or the Star Singer based on that illustration that we saw in at the Shrine of Time on Windemere.
Yeah, I can see that.
I really want her to be protoculture.
Yeah, if she has some sort of genetic mutation in her, I think it all leads to the fact that it comes from some sort of protoculture DNA or something like that.
Okay, so like Arad and Johnson had said that Lady M was going to reveal to Valkyrie what Mikumo actually was. But then we didn't actually get a scene where she reveals it and makes it clear. It's just Mikumo
Yeah.
talking about it and making the girls feel bad for trying to break her out. She's scolding them, like, I heard you tried to break in and rescue me. And Conway's like, yeah, well, we failed. And she's like, did you find what you were looking for? And I'm like, oh my God, just calm down for a minute. They were trying to make sure you were okay, and she was making them feel bad for trying. And it's like, wow, oof, that's intense.
I didn't get that, but she definitely was showing off the fact that it's a deep, deep secret. She's like, you're not gonna find anything. Did you guys find anything? Right? And then it's like, no, we didn't. But then yeah, she does the reveal herself instead of Lady M. So yeah, that was kind of a cheat. Like we don't need Lady M anymore again because it's been done for us.
Yeah, but if that theory is correct that, Mikumo is a clone of Lady M, then what if Lady M was actually the one revealing it? What if the Mikumo
Well,
clone is still back in the tank?
That's true.
oh God.
Oh, headaches.
No, it's getting a headache. But that's it. That's it for the episode.
Yeah, and then the preview scene just shows more talking. Like Hayate's siding up to Mikumo and talking to her.
Oh yeah, that's right. That's like an unexpected connection.
It is.
It's kind of like the time where Master talked to Freya. You didn't expect that.
Yeah, but I also kind of hoped for some preview shots of like conflict with our bad guys.
That's exactly what we need.
you
back
know?
to the
Once-
back to the meat and bones of Macross Delta.
We had such good conflicts with the bad guys too at some
Yeah.
point. Because especially we had that whole point where Kasum met with Freya and Hayate. So
Yeah.
I was like, well, I'd like to see a point like where they actually meet in combat. What are Kasum and Hayate going to have to do? Do they just resolve to say, this is, our place in this war and we have to follow it, or are we going to try to do something different? Like I was really looking forward to that, and then it just didn't happen. And we've got a lot of inner conflict on Windemere, and that's great, but how is this going to affect them when they actually go out to fight? Is Keith going to listen to Royd anymore, especially knowing what he does now? But they don't actually show us that, so we don't get to find out that this is what happens when the enemy is starting to crumble on the inside, and that kind of thing. There are missed opportunities, and I'd like to see them. And we do have 5 episodes, so that's what, let's see, each episode is like 23 minutes without commercials, something like that, 23, 24 minutes. So we've got
Yeah, something like
like
that.
we've got like a little over 100 minutes maybe
And
to
don't
to
forget,
end the whole series.
don't forget, we still have to find out what the hell happened with Hayate's dad, what the real story is.
Yeah.
Yeah, that whole
Hold on,
thing.
guys. I'm going to bring up my calculator because my math is not good. I have not been in a math class for years. So I actually I'm going to get a correct number here. 120 minutes.
115.
We got 120 minutes, assuming 24-minute episodes for the next 5 episodes. So we
Yeah.
have 2 hours to wrap everything up.
A movie. That's enough.
There we go. Just make it a movie. This will be the Macross Delta conclusion movie.
Yeah. That's a lot though. Lady M, Hayate's dad, what's going on in Windemere, all the things that's going on in Windemere. Belger, what else? Oh, the triangle. The
Yeah, the
triangle.
the one-sided triangle.
The one-sided triangle. Well, within the last 2 episodes, we actually meet like characters. I know 2 of them are history,
Yeah, they're no
you know,
longer with the Valkyrie, so we don't have to really worry about them.
but
But
then we
yeah.
got Herman's son also. It's like,
The
oh, what's
red
this
shirt.
about? Yeah, exactly.
I'd honestly forgotten completely about that character. Yeah. Because we just
There's so much
interested
we
him
could
for that
forget
one
about.
scene, yeah. And
That's
he
the
makes
point.
he makes no introduction or anything. It's kind of retarded.
We're missing the most important flaw of Macross Delta here is Chuck has like maybe 5 minutes tops of screen time, and he was never once sad about his sister dying.
Oh my God, the sister. She's gonna show up.
We haven't
That's
gotten him. He hasn't been grieving at all for her. Yeah.
no,
Yeah,
and she's listed as dead somewhere. Someone linked it. I can't remember. It's been a while. I think it's been a month since that episode. But someone linked it. She's listed as dead.
I think the next episode will be purely on the Chuck sister. Just a flashback episode of who she is, and
Just in
What's
time.
been going on with her? Like catch up with
Since
Chuck's
we're gonna
sister.
do more expositional episodes as flashbacks, let's talk about our dearly departed Marianne.
Exactly. One whole episode. 23 of your 120 minutes will be devoted to Marianne.
Oh god, if they show Hack and Zach though putting out like a little floaty plane for her too and singing "Remember 16," I will probably cry.
She's not gonna get a plane.
So,
She's gonna get like a huge bra or
oh
something.
my god.
Fuck hell.
All right. Unlike Macross Delta, we have to move on.
Oh. Oh. Oh,
Oh.
shots fired.
Are we really this salty about this series?
Honestly, I think it's because we've spent so much time on it.
I think so too. Yeah, I think our own interest and our own show
No.
about the show is working against us at this point. It's like every episode that they have where it's just like treading water, we feel it because we're like, oh,
No.
come
It's
on.
a general feeling. I guarantee you, everybody has the same exact. Well, not everybody, but it's the general feeling. I mean, that's what they're posting on Twitter, on our Macross Delta Facebook page. Everybody's feeling it.
I think we're less optimistic because we spent so much time on it. Like there are still people who are like feeling the drag, but are like, it'll get better, you know.
Yeah.
And then there's
And
me who's like,
let's be clear too. Like I haven't lost my faith in Macross Delta either. I can't speak for you two, but I can definitely say that I have not.
No, I have faith also, but we have to admit that every episode they take away from it getting better makes it less great.
Yes, this is
You know what I
true.
mean?
Another theory I have going too is that it almost feels like they're saving money as well with some of these episodes by like not having anything really happen in it, especially the animation quality.
yeah, it wasn't as terrible as the last episode with all the tiny hands and the squished shoulders, but some of the line weight quality wasn't so good this time around. Again,
Derpy Machina. That's all I could say.
Derpy
Just
Machina.
that was the ugliest face that
Oh
she's made
man,
the whole.
she had uneven boobs at one point, and it just really bothered me.
They also had a lot of still frames in this episode too, and a lot of frames where there's just people standing perfectly still, and all that's moving is their mouth. And
Mm-hmm.
whenever I see lots of sequences like that, it just feels like they're just saving animation money for like and episodes that come later.
That's fine as long as they're talking about something interesting. I mean, Evangelion did that, but they did it like brilliantly.
Yeah, yeah.
Oh yeah,
So
the elevator.
the elevators. Yeah, exactly.
Even Arad, when they pan up on Arad, he's
Stupid Arid.
they show his perfect white teeth.
Yeah, they're trying to save money on color, so they made his teeth
That's
bigger.
why they didn't put his gray hair in there.
Exactly.
Man, Arad's seen some shit though. Like if he's going gray just in 2 years, and like his features are already like more not jaunt, but he's got like more hardened features and he's got wrinkles under his eyes. I'm like, bro, what have you been through in 2 years?
It's all that fucking jellyfish. And then if you think about like Windemerians, all they eat are apples. Why don't you get some meat? That's what happened to people. They started eating cooked meat and they started living longer. You know,
Is that why the
Wow,
Windemerians get
you
icy
were really
crusties? Because
going
all they
after
eat is apples.
you were really going
you just can't
after
cook apples and call it meat. That's all I'm saying.
you're really going after those vegetarians.
Vegetarians.
You're just no holds barred, man. That's it.
Anyways, messages. All right. Okay, so our first message is from Felipe. Hello, Felipe, again. And he actually has some theories about what Mikumo could be. And I know in this episode it kind of reveals it. But he has some ideas that she could actually be a protoculture survivor. Let's see. That she could also be a clone of the protoculture. Um, but the Epsilon Foundation is involved. So it's the Epsilon Foundation that was involved in making the clone of the protoculture creature.
Mhm.
The other idea that he has is that she's human. Oh, hold on. She's a human, but had her mind wiped or blocked by the Epsilon Foundation when they discovered what happened to the Vajra symbiotes that moved into humans. So that's when, when the Vajra folded out, what caused the VAR syndrome is that when they folded out, they folded into the cells of people.
Pretty cool.
Yeah, it's from the Macross E. I think it's Macross Extra, but yeah, Macross E manga is where they talk about that. Um,
Spoiler.
Yeah. Whoops. Sorry, guys. Read the tankobon. I haven't, but that's okay. Um, but mostly what his theories are saying so far is that the Epsilon Foundation is somehow connected to Mikumo as a whole, but also potentially connected to the Fairy Project in Frontier.
Ah, interesting.
Well, it's definitely creative. Maybe it's a possibility. I'm not sure that it fits with, I guess, the feeling that I have about the themes and the scope of Macross Delta. It feels kind of like outside of it. Doesn't feel like that's what they're going to be going for.
It's Macross. Kawamori's gonna change this by the time the movie comes out. You know what I mean? Like it's not gonna be consistent. And if anybody like tries to make sense of it, I mean, good luck, and sometimes it's fun, but it changes. You know, canon and Macross is a four-letter word.
Just remember, guys, none of it is real.
You mean I don't have Vajra in my fold receptors?
Oh man, no, the canon, none of it is real. He said that in an interview.
Oh God.
Because it's like dramatic reproductions of like World War II events in movies and that kind of thing. And that's how he justifies the canon of the Macross world.
I think at this point in Kawamori's career, he's just having fun messing with everybody because
Trolling.
he's been messed with so much in his career. He's
Yeah.
had to answer so many inane questions from so many people, both fans and interviewers and everything else. I think he's concocted this scheme so that he can annoy them as much as they've annoyed him in the last 25 years.
Yeah.
So yeah.
So it's kind of like equivalent to William Shatner inventing the phrase "get a
Get a
life."
life. Yeah, I think it literally is that. It's like, because if you look at it from his perspective, he's probably had to go through these questions so many times and these interviews that like just never seem to end. And he's like, you know what? I'm just going to create you know, this canon guide for Macross, which is going to
Mhm.
fuck everybody up, and they're just going to hate it. And I'm going to love every second of it.
But don't stop doing it because it is fun. I think it just gets messy when people start arguing with other people on the internet. That's when it
Well, I
becomes really
think I
bad.
think
But
one of the reasons that I agree, and I think one of the reasons that Cowmoray does it is to force people to lighten up, because the more serious you are, the less any one theory will make sense, right? You
yeah,
just have to kind of say that, okay, Cowmoray has long ago decided that they'll take elements from all sorts of different, what we thought were different continuities or different, canon interpretations of Macross, and they'll
yeah.
combine them in future sequels just at a whim. So it means that you shouldn't be worrying about it all that much, right? That's the
Whatever
only way to
works.
approach it. That's how I did, like when I started, kind of making my website and especially making the Macrosspedia section of my website. It was sort of like, how can I reconcile all these different like apparent contradictions in the continuity of all the different sequels of Macross? And I think the idea was you're not supposed to. You're not supposed to make it all make sense. You're supposed to just be laid back about it, relax, and just enjoy what it is, and stop trying to enforce something on it. Less form, more style.
Make your own head canon.
Exactly. Yeah, use your imagination. And that's actually one thing that Kawamori, at least as part of my theory, can be confirmed by Kawamori, because he loves everything being open ended. He does not like being tied down to anything. He wants every Macross show he works on to be just a blank slate with full of possibilities. He doesn't want any part of the Macross continuity to come down hard on it and say you can or cannot do this. He wants it to be open.
Yeah, and it's rough because people are always going to ask what happened next. You know what I mean?
Yes,
It's like,
yeah.
what happened to the Mega Road? The Mega Road is what happened. We did 10 extra episodes of SDF. People are like, what happened? Then we did a movie. People are like, what happened? Oh, then flashback. Like, oh, what happened? It's like, what do you mean?
It never ends.
No, it is frustrating.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. So let me go to various cheeses. The first one is place your bets now for Norman's death pool. I guess how do we do that? Like what episode? What episode is he gonna die in, or if he's gonna die at all?
Well, we did label him a red shirt, so
He's a red shirt for sure. I think we could. Well, we don't know for sure, but he reads that way, right?
I don't know if he's necessarily going to be dead, but I think
Yeah.
he's definitely there to serve a plot point and nothing else.
Or maybe it's Herman's death that it'll weigh more if he's there.
He might as well just be a prop. He's a plot device, no other reason.
You call everybody that though.
He
Only
was
the
our
ones who are plot devices.
he was our plot device to demonstrate Heinz's status as a Disney princess, because he's the one who says,
That's
"Oh wow, that scary ass bird doesn't listen to anybody but me, but he listens to
oh,
you."
maybe he's the prince. He looks like a prince,
I
a
don't
Disney
I
prince.
don't know. Maybe he is. Maybe he's Prince Charming. I don't know. Maybe he's gonna save Heinz from the icy crusties. Who knows?
Yeah, by kissing him and waking him up,
There we go.
or just locking runes.
All right, Dojin artists, get going.
And this next comment was confirmed on this episode. Something about Reina hacking Chaos's servers. So yeah, it's there. Oh, let me read this one really quick. Fang Mitch. The character analysis by Chad are always on point. It's fun to listen to them. Thanks for doing this recap videos. It always makes my day.
Oh, with
Ooh, we
a
got a
smiley
fan.
face.
Oh my god.
Oh,
Wow.
smiley face, Chad. I think
Smiley
that's you.
face. Yeah.
Smiley face.
I'm all red right now and embarrassed. That's really good to hear. It's yeah, as I think we've mentioned before, the internet is always filled with a lot of criticism and hate and everything else going around. So it's always nice to every once in a while hear some really positive feedback. Actually, I think the feedback has been quite good so far. I mean, we've gotten a few negative things here and there, but I think most of the feedback that we've gotten from the fans in the comment sections and just on Facebook and Twitter as well has been really fantastic. It really helps to make it all feel worthwhile, like that our efforts are worthwhile, that we're putting something out there that people enjoy and they're getting something out of it as well, not just for entertainment, but maybe just for their understanding of Macross. And if at least like what we do, I think if it at least makes people think a little bit more critically about Macross Delta while still enjoying it, I think that's the best that we can hope for.
I like that it's starting conversations too, like reading the conversations
Yeah,
on our last video. Like
yeah.
that's
Hmm.
one of the things we were aiming to do, is to open the conversation up between fans. So it's
Yeah,
really cool to see that it's actually happening. I like that.
and I also like that it spurs people to message us as a group and then also us individually about with different theories, or what they think might happen. Like, and sometimes it really helps us. Like sometimes with that one episode with all the mechanical problems on board the island, what they used to retreat from Ragna, and we had that sequence where they were all in zero G and they were using their clothes to propel themselves. We didn't really spend any considerable effort considering why that would actually be a thing. And we got I know I got messages, and we also got replies in the comments of the video about why they were doing that, and that was really helpful because that helped
Yeah.
us understand a specific part. So I think that's great. I think that's awesome. It helps makes the show better, and maybe there's other people out there listening to the show with the same questions we have. So it's always great to have those fan replies, and yeah, right. Make sure and write in. Keep writing in. It's great.
Yeah, the interactions help me. Sometimes I miss something like during the week
Yeah, yeah,
before we do the show, then I'll go back and watch maybe just that part or the whole show.
yeah,
But
yeah.
it tells me what to look for,
Yeah, because
and then we get to talk about it.
we're just we're as human as the next people, and we can't. Sometimes we miss stuff. Sometimes we don't always talk about everything important that's in an episode. I think most of the time we do. We cover all the major points, but every once in a while, a fan sends me in a message and says, "You guys didn't talk about this from the previous episode," and I'm like, "Oh, damn, we missed that one. Yeah, we probably should have mentioned that."
Sometimes we do talk about it, and then it gets edited
And
out.
it gets
So
edited out, yeah.
yeah,
So yeah, because we gotta keep it under a certain time so that people won't get bored and will tune in every week.
yeah, come back
Come back, yeah.
for more. Yeah, we're only human, except Celia. She's a clone. She's a magical girl clone.
Aha.
Ha ha ha. But Chad gets the big bucks. Me and Tia get the crumbs. So that's why.
Well, if you try just a little bit harder,
That
it's the
keep the
laugh.
money.
I put it down to the laugh since so many people have apparently commented on it.
That's about it.
Um,
Seems like
I have I have the one from Bahoma 246
oh,
about
okay.
Nurse Mirage and then Lady M.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
All right, so Bahoma 246 says, "Well, we didn't get Nurse Mirage like I hoped. Curse Hayate and his magical teenage healing abilities. But on the bright side, Nurse Machina was super adorable. I agree, she was super cute. I really like that
Yeah.
outfit.
Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah, yeah.
uh,
That's right though. Like Hayate healed too fast.
seriously, missed opportunity.
That's right.
Bahoma also says, if they don't reveal Lady M next episode, I'm going to be really annoyed. The mystery surrounding her has gone on for far too long. Also, we won't figure out Kumo Kumo's past until she was revealed, so give us Lady M, damn it.
Yeah,
Believe
we pulled
me,
this.
I share her frustration.
I almost want to go back and rewatch the end of Frontier because I've been seeing some talk that Frontier had kind of a similar pacing where it was really slow and then it was rushed in the last couple episodes. But it's been long enough since I watched the TV series that I don't remember that. And I also have a very strong Frontier bias. So things that were wrong with the show have, conveniently slipped my memory. So I think I might go back and watch that and see if I can pick up some similar patterns.
Yeah.
I felt it.
Yeah, definitely
Yeah,
me
I
as
mentioned
well.
it
Yeah.
before. That's why in the beginning I was like, "Oh man, I much prefer Delta. The way it moves, the way it just goes forward, it's daring, and then it just kind of like,
The whole part with the Macross galaxy in the Frontier series was problematic and remained problematic even at the end of the series. We needed a bit more of that whole fleet. We should have seen more people from that fleet. We should have been given more context and shown more scenes about what was going on and how they came to be and Grace's relationship with them and everything else to make everything that she did and Brera's story and everyone else sort of make a lot more sense and just feel a lot tighter.
And the
Just like yeah,
additional
just
like slap on of like, oh, by the way, he's Ronka's brother.
yeah,
Whoops.
yeah, like
"Oh my god."
yeah, you know,
That's what's wrong with the one thing that's really wrong with Frontier is they slapped that on,
yeah,
and we're still getting the fan art of Bronca and Vera like hooking up and kissing, and I'm like, oh god, people missed this part.
yeah. That's exactly. Look at the damage it's caused. It's so insignificant that people missed the actual sequence in the show, and they just yeah.
All right, that's it for this episode. Celia Rose, where can we find you when you're not doing the Macross Delta recap show?
You can find me on my Facebook page at Celia Rose Cosplay, and you can find me on Twitter at Planets Twinkle.
And Chad, what about you?
You can always visit my website, the Macross Mecha Manual. You can send me an email at marchingcw@hotmail.com. You can also visit the official Facebook page for the Macross Mecha Manual, which is facebook.com/Macross Mecha Manual. And lastly, I'm available on various anime message boards, such as ANN, Anime Nation, and the Macross World Forums.
And this is EXO. You could message me on the Macross World Facebook page or the Macross Delta Facebook page. Or you could tweet at me at Macross Tweet, the official Macross World Twitter account. We'll see you next week for episode 22, Extreme Bravery. Bye.
Woohoo!